Okay, we're good.
Hello and welcome to episode number 27 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded June 26th, 2019. My name is not Eric. He is the host of the show. I'm Alan, and I'm sitting in for Eric tonight. Based in Southern Ontario, I hunt and have shot before, not terribly active anymore. Eric, however, is a ham radio operator, VE3EPN, and a computer geek. We are all fans of preparedness after having witnessed reliance on emergency service throughout throughout major and even minor events in the area. Ian is also not with us, so he's been overwhelmed by the sudden fame of being an internet celebrity and has taken some time off to deal with his emotional support alpacas. We hope to see him again. However, last I heard, um, he would rather be with them than us. Can't say I blame him. My name's Alan. My friends and family call me a safety nerd. I have a background as a first responder, and I teach first aid, coach my friends and family to be better prepared. I'm a locksmith by trade. I've worked in the physical security industry for more than 20 years now.
Awesome. My name is Hughes. I'm from Canada's East Coast, located in Nova Scotia. I'm a Canadian Armed Forces veteran, current volunteer firefighter and station chief, as well as a competition shooter and hunter. Yeah, that's me.
Well, I'm Gavin. I'm a business owner, CCFR field officer, volunteer first responder as well. It seems to be a trend amongst these people. I'm a Stop the Bleed instructor and a firearms instructor with Ragnarok Tactical. And I also do some podcasting with Ian on the other CPP, which is Canadian Patriot Podcast, which I guess has led to his inflated ego and all of his fame. Sorry about that, guys.
There's being famous and there's being infamous. And
same thing.
Who we are.
Same thing.
So tonight we have some utilitarian content for you. We're going to start off with some news articles relating to the preparedness in the outdoors, let you know what we've all done lately to improve our preparedness, and then we'll get into our main topic, our personal EDC gear. Looking through the news section, we'll just take a pass on that and fill it out later. Unless you guys have something that they want to share with us that doesn't have a link up. Going once?
No.
I do not know.
All right. Yeah. We're going to skip the news tonight because, well, frankly, it's all bad news. So let's move on to what we've done lately for preps. Eric and Ian are gone. Hughes, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I guess I just acquired a new IPSC gun. So it's not really preparedness, but it is a form of preparedness. So I just acquired a CZ Shadow 2. Along with
excellent choice.
6 mags. Yeah, I was shooting with an MMP9 2.0, which was fine, but I wanted to step up the game a little bit in terms of speed and reliability and all that. And I think, when you look at the sport of IPSC, it's both a skill and it's having something tangible that you can use for other things other than competition shooting, right? So yeah, that's what I did in the last week. So I am just waiting for that to arrive here. So that's what I did.
Cool. I have been getting ready for my first big camping trip of the season. We're heading out to the East Coast next week. So I actually won't be on the next episode because I'll be somewhere between Ontario and New Brunswick. So getting all my gear out. I absolutely love preparing for camping trips where I get to lay all my gear out on the garage floor and touch and play and decide what's going to go and what's not. So that's been taking up my time this week. How about you, Gavin?
I've been all over the place the last couple of weeks, so haven't really done a whole lot in prepping per se, but I guess, I've been sleeping out of the back of an SUV on a couple of trips down to Utah in all kinds of weird, awkward weather for this time of year. Cold, rain, 65-mile-an-hour winds. But I for one of the trips I was down there, I took a week-long tracking class. So, that's kind of a neat little skill to have. So following footprints and stuff through different terrain. And, also making sure I can do all of my camping stuff still and trying to do that while still fitting it on a suitcase to take onto their plane. Can be interesting. Cool. So you learn to get pretty minimalist. And then I was actually just down again in Utah this past weekend working on my long range shooting skills. So I now successfully shot out to a mile.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What
It was
what
exciting.
do you send down range that far? Like what kind of
I
projectile?
have a 338 Lapua Magnum that I was using to
Oh
reach
wow.
that distance. Yeah, it kicks a little, so my shoulder is a little tender. At least it was the other day. It's not too bad today.
Yeah, I spent last weekend in doing firefighter training. So I was we were doing survival training, which is like busting through walls, and, crawling through tunnels with all of our gear on. So my arms and knees are just battered and bruised. Kind of the same thing. Everything is sore, and I would go back and do it again in a second.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so let's. I guess it's time to move on to the main topic of our show. What's in our pockets? Our everyday carry gear. So, the way that we do it here in Canada is obviously a little bit different from the way our American friends do it. It's some will say it's better, some will say it's worse. Ian has his little list here, but we're going to skip him because he's not here. So.
It's probably all
That
kinds
puts
of
me. That
stuff to
puts
look after his alpaca, anyways.
Yeah, there's several brushes, a pick, an afro pick,
Yeah.
some conditioner, some scissors. So my gear is kind of layered with the stuff I keep with me all the time. In my pockets, I always carry a lighter. I like a Zippo just because it's that one was given to me as a gift many years ago, and I'm partial to it. I have a small folder, which is a little buck knife I got about 20 years ago at Canadian Tire for $6, and holds an edge pretty well. And I've used it to fillet fish and split wood in the same day, and it's does the job for me. I carry a little button cell flashlight that's about the size of my thumb, puts out enough light. Probably the thing that I use the most out of anything. My car key. I don't carry a house key because I use a code for everything. My wallet and a watch. I always have a watch on. I prefer an analog watch because it doesn't need to do anything else. Usually a pair of sunglasses and a ball cap nearby. On top of that, I have in my lunch box, which goes with me everywhere, CPR mask, pair of gloves, and a couple of pencil cases with goodies. So I have a multi-tool, which is a Leatherman right now. I keep a headlamp, some spare batteries, all the charger cords that I might need to come across. I have a micro USB and a USB-C and an iPhone cord. Probably 20 feet of paracord, some band-aids, nail clippers, which I find I use more often for pulling out splinters than anything else. Needle and some silk thread, another lighter, some Velcro, a little wrap of duct tape, orange and gray duct tape there. Second pouch they have is another folding knife, something a little bit bigger, a ferro rod, a magnesium stick. Not that I've ever had to use that in my urban to farmland life, but it's better to have and not need. A couple of razor blades, and sharpening stone, some water purification tabs, and of course more paracord. On top of that is like my car gear and my backpacks and stuff. But we've talked about that on other episodes. So go back to the what's in your trunk episode to see what I carry there.
Cool. I guess for me, it's EDC has been kind of a passion of mine for probably 5 or 6 years now. So it kind of started off. I saw an account on Instagram about EDC, and people were just kind of like laying out what was in their pockets, and it got me thinking, what's in my pockets, and typically keys and stuff was kind of unorganized and all that kind of stuff. And anyways, that's the time when I really started to get interested in what I was carrying and how I could make it better and how I could take a more minimalist approach. So I'll share what's typically on me every day, and then I do carry stuff in my truck. I live in a rural area, so I don't walk anywhere. I take my truck everywhere, so I've got a lot of stuff in there. So typically, always with me is my cell phone, obviously. The great thing about this is that it's a communication device, it's a camera, it's a GPS, it's everything, right? So that's the main thing I have on me. I've got a really small minimalist wallet. I carry basically 3 credit cards that I use most often. I have my driver's license, my fire ID, and that's it. And it's really slim, really small. Again, this goes with the minimalist approach that I try to have. I also carry a folder. This is a SOG Flash 2. So it's an assisted open knife. I've had it for probably 3 or 4 years now, and it's been a great, solid knife. It's a glass reinforced nylon handle. It's all stainless construction, so it's really solid. Never had to sharpen it yet. really good knife. I also carry my keys. So I do have a code for my front door, but I do have keys for other things. So I've gone to the Key Smart. And the great thing about this is instead of having just a keychain with a keys kind of dangle, they're all organized in this nice, neat little package. So this is a Key Smart, highly recommended. I think this is my second. If I were to get another one, I'd probably get the titanium one just to get the weight down just a little bit more. Again, I'm always thinking about ways that I can reduce the weight, make stuff smaller, lighter, faster. And finally, it brings me to my other set of keys. I know I've got two set of keys, but this one is the key fob for my truck, which on it has a little tiny flashlight. So I have a redundancy there. I've got a Gerber shard tool, which is basically screwdriver, bottle opener, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the second one. And then I usually carry this flashlight on me at all times. It's a Thorfire that runs off a lithium 14500 battery, but it will also accept a AA should I need that. And then typically when I go somewhere for the day, in my backpack, like if I have my laptop and headphones and all that kind of stuff in there, I have this Max Petition pouch, and in it is basically all I would need to kind of survive a little bit longer. So it's got things like, screwdrivers, pry bars, another knife, USB charger. It's got a battery pack, another flashlight, multi-tool, just a number of tools that I find would be useful for getting by for a day, especially when I'm traveling, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, if I'm traveling, I'll have to remove the knives and whatnot if I'm traveling by air, right? But that's basically it. I mean, that's what I carry on me every day. This is what I typically carry on me if I have a backpack. So I'll have some redundancy inside the backpack. And then if I've got my vehicle, within the vehicle, I've got a get home bag, which I've gone over in another episode. As well as some miscellaneous tools that I keep inside the truck as well, that depending on the situation I find myself in, I can pick and choose what tools that I need if I needed to abandon the truck at that point. So yeah, that's for me.
I see. I mean, I guess mine is kind of similar to both of yours. I have my glasses with me because I kind of need them to see. They also double as my sunglasses because I hate carrying multiple pairs. Cell phone like everyone else, which comes in handy for all kinds of stuff. I also carry a pocket knife. Currently, it's a Benchmade Griptilian. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst. It does the job. I often also have a fixed blade knife on me tucked away somewhere. That's a custom knife that I had designed for me. I've usually got a multi-tool on me. I always have my pocket lockpick set on me because you never know when that's going to come in handy. Around my neck, I have a little tiny pouch that I carry some escape tools. So it's got a handcuff key, a shim for other locks, a little tiny piece of Kevlar cord to cut through things, a very, very, very tiny glow stick that gives you like just enough light if you ever need it. I also usually have a mini IFAK on my ankle with a tourniquet, some rolled gauze, gloves, and a fox seal. Living in Toronto or the Toronto area, you never know when you may need that stuff. And then like you guys, in my car, I've always got like a full trauma bag and my 72-hour bag, which, we've talked about in previous episodes. So, and when I'm in the US, because I can, I will carry my Glock 34 and a spare mag.
So do you have, just a question on that, you must have a concealed carry license from like New Hampshire or something, or is
Correct. Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah, that's it's what a lot of people have, I guess, when they're in the States, right? So, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found, I mean, over the years, since this is stuff I carry with me every day, and it's kind of like, when you go camping for the first time, you overpack, and then you realize, what you brought that you didn't need, and then the next time you kind of get smart, and you're like, I probably don't need this, and I probably don't need that, and I found that as the years go by, what I carry on me every day has evolved to, like I said earlier, become faster, lighter, have a smaller footprint and all that kind of stuff, right? And I think, as I mentioned, we weren't on air yet, but to Gavin, I've gone, there's the utilitarian approach, which I think is the number one priority, where you want to make sure that you have solid gear that you're going to be able to use. But the other part is the style of it, right? So I see a lot of people that are in the EDC community go for style. And when I mean style, I mean they'll have all one color gear, right? Like they'll have a black watch, black knife, black wallet, and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of interests me as well. I'm not quite there yet because obviously I've got a blue key smart and a tan wallet and all that kind of stuff. But I think trying to mix the two, the utilitarian nature of what you carry on you every day and the style, is a good approach that might get other people into it, as opposed to just looking at what you need to carry for what tasks you may encounter, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a million different Gucci gear manufacturers out there that are making titanium, stuff that's been painted or anodized or whatever they do to it to make it match everyone else's other stuff. And I mean, it's crazy, some of the stuff out there.
Yeah, it can get quite expensive. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
like a Key Smart will cost you 20, but if you get the titanium one, it's like $100, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to justify shaving 20 grams for $80. But
Hey,
when it comes to style, there's no
grams equal ounces equal pounds, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. So
Well, it's so cool, right? Like you don't need a titanium key smart, but it's cool to have one. Like,
Yeah.
and so if you want one, don't deprive yourself of it. Just don't think that you need it because it's titanium and because it's light. So,
yeah,
I mean, I used to carry a whole lot more in my pockets, and what I found is that what I did was I started tracking over the days and weeks, what did I actually use on a regular basis, and what I use all the time is a flashlight and a knife. So can I live without a lighter in my pocket? Absolutely. I don't need a lighter in my pocket. I don't smoke. But it's something that I enjoy. I also have, and it's actually not in my pocket at this exact moment, but I have a quarter that was given to me by a friend. It was his son was about 10 years old, and he put this quarter in a bearing press and kind of distorted it, so it was kind of like a little bowl or a semicircle. And what he did that kind of just for fun one day, and he showed one of his friends at school, and his friends all buy that from me. Thought it really neat, and so he bought it. He sold that quarter for $1.
okay,
Just because he had done something cool with it, and then somebody else wanted one, and so he had this little business going at school of selling quarters for $1. And
it's not a bad gig, yeah.
It's not at all, right? And it's just one of those reminders. I bought one from him. This was down in Tennessee a couple of years back. I bought one from him because I admired that he was using that to make he found a need, and he made something that people wanted, and they were buying it from him. And so I bought one from him. It's lived in my pocket ever since, and it's just kind of that reminder that to look at a situation a little bit differently, and you might see an outcome, right? You might see something that you didn't see before. Because selling a quarter for $1, if somebody said I sell quarters for $1, I'd laugh at them and say, what kind of idiots do you sell them to?
Yeah.
But but then the pet rock made $1 million.
yeah.
So there's it's just one of those. There's no practical purpose to it. It's just something I can play with in my pocket. But it's that constant reminder in my pocket that there's an opportunity in everything. You just maybe have to look at it a little bit differently. So that was kind of my thing. I kind of shaved down what was in my pockets to like the bare essentials, and that was and that one thing. But I used to carry like 2 or 3 different multi-tools on me, and like a 4-inch folding knife. And what I realized is that what I do for myself most days is I take that folding knife and I cut boxes open with it.
Yeah, and that's you made a good point about the lighter there, because I know when I first started getting into EDC and looking at what type of tools I can carry, I started carrying a lighter, and I think it was a Zippo was the first one, and then I probably carried that on me for about a year, and I'm not a smoker, and I don't think I ever used a lighter in a year. So eventually I decided to shed the weight and then kind of look at like more of the motto of 2 is 1, 1 is none, which is when I went into the redundancy piece, right? So obviously, the one time I'm going to need a light, that light's going to fail. Either it's not going to work, either there's going to be, water ingress and it's dead, or the battery's dead. So I looked at getting, the one flashlight I carry in my pocket, that little tiny flashlight I carry on my keychain, and then really I've got the flashlight that's on my phone as well, right? So looking at the tools I really need, as you mentioned, Alan, it's, a flashlight and a knife. And that's typically, I've always got that one knife on me. I've got a second knife. I probably have 2 or 3 knives in my truck, but I've got a couple knives in the truck. I've got a knife, 2 knives actually in my EDC pack here that I typically carry in my backpack if I go anywhere. So I've got those levels of redundancy that if I lose something, break something, I mean, it's happened to me before where I set something down and it's gone, right? So
Sure.
I think to me that's the important part, and I think that's a lesson you can only learn with experience. About it's nice to think that you're going to need it, but if you haven't used it in a year, you really have to ask yourself the question.
Yeah.
Do I really need to carry this on me, or can I put it? And actually, the Zippo is in this pack now, so I don't carry it on my person specifically. It's in this, which goes in my backpack. So I still have it. But not typically within arm's reach if I don't have the backpack, right?
Well,
So
and one of the things I like about the Zippo specifically is that even if there's no fuel in it, and I mean, I fill my Zippo on Sunday nights
yeah,
religiously. It's part of my habit, part of my routine. But even if it fails, if you pull the cotton out of the bottom, the striker will still work, and you can still use it to make a fire. So that was one of the my justifications to myself, anyways, for using a Zippo over something that's maybe a little bit more reliable in terms of fuel. Is that will work it's more reliable under more circumstances.
yeah,
Well, I mean,
it's a
there's
good point.
also some built-in trade value on a Zippo as a paired composed, like a a Bic lighter or something like that. If you ever needed to trade and barter for something,
Absolutely.
and despite the fact I don't normally carry a lighter, but I try to. I always just forget because I've already got too much other crap in my pockets. But from a social aspect, a lighter is a great thing to carry because you can use that to spark up conversation. No pun intended on that one, but it comes in handy in that aspect too, not just a survival one, but just if you see somebody there that's looking for one, you can light their cigarette, which then gives you an in to talk to them and do all kinds of other stuff. So it's a different way of looking at things. I mean, I know I carry maybe a little bit more stuff that I don't use all that frequently and hopefully never do, but I try to do that so that when I'm in a situation where I need it, I always have it on me, because if I start not carrying it, that's going to be the time that I do need it.
Yep.
Because I mean, I travel a fair bit and sometimes to weird places and things like that. So
I have a tourniquet in my car. It's within reach.
Yeah, the lighter is a good one because I mean, if you think about the secondary, I mean, obviously the primary use would be to start a fire or light something on fire, but the secondary use is a light source, right? So I mean, if you've only got one light on you, you've got the Zippo as a secondary light source. It's not going to be an LED flashlight, right? But I mean, in a pinch, it'll still work, right? So,
yeah, I mean that, and so I mean, I've done a lot of weird social engineering type classes and things like that, and yeah, lighters and cigarettes, even if you don't use them yourself, are great things to carry on you. So if you are traveling in weird places and you ever need to grease the wheels, you may need want to consider carrying that stuff in that certain circumstance. Maybe not at home, but if you're traveling abroad, especially in Europe and South America where smoking is more prevalent, it's a great way to sort of grease the wheels and get things moving when needed, as a little bribe that's not
And
a bribe.
also ease tensions, right? If somebody's an addict and they're looking for a fix, if you can solve that fix, they're less likely to take your wallet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a question for you guys as well. One thing I didn't hear anybody mention so far is cash. Do you guys still carry cash on you everywhere you go?
I try to, but
yeah, and the thing is I mean, I carry. I've gotten the bad habit of ditching the wallet because I've got Google Pay on my phone, which is accepted almost everywhere now, and I've got a picture of my driver's license front and back, which I've got friends that are police officers, and they said as long as you have that, we can look up the license in the system anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, right? So I've gotten to the point that I've gotten the bad habit of not carrying my wallet, which I don't carry any cash, and then you get into these situations that it's cash only or the debit machine's down or something like that. So just want to hear your thoughts on carrying cash, and I'm kind of the same way. I thought I heard that you try to, but you don't always have an opportunity to. And I guess I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I find that if I have cash, I spend it. Yeah.
So I went through this one time, and it was kind of my reason to not buy things with cash. I was in a small town, and I went to the gas station, gave the cashier $40 in cash, went and pumped gas, hung up the pump, drove away. 5 minutes later, there was a pickup truck following me, blocked me in where I was parked, and came up and said, "Hey, you drove off without paying for that gas." And no, I gave her $40 in cash and then pumped $40 in gas and then left. But it was my word against hers at that point. And this person did not remember me doing it.
Oh wow.
So that became that was one of my reasons to always pay for something with plastic, because even if I lose the receipt, there's a digital transaction.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I mean you get a lot of not, I wouldn't say a lot, but you get some people in the prepper community that are against using plastic, because then people can track your movements and all that kind of stuff. But
if you got a cell phone or anything, like a car
you're getting,
or anything,
and these are the people, they're saying, well, I don't use a credit card because they can track me, but they're using an Android phone, right? It's like, well, if you're worried about them tracking you through your transactions, they probably know where you are right now anyway, right?
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I try to have cash, but one thing I have learned in some of these weird social engineering classes, people will give you money if you ask them in the right way.
Absolutely.
And we did an experiment on one of these things. I was down in Tulsa, and I stood on the street corner for an hour asking for people to make donations to injured service animals, and I made $50 in an hour. That's $50.
Yeah,
$50 US. So if I were to be able to do that as a job,
it's like 1,200 Canadian.
Yeah, that is more money than I make like after taxes if I extrapolate that out.
And I would say I'm surprised, but a couple of years ago, I remember a friend of mine who was a police officer. He was doing traffic control downtown Halifax, and he watched a panhandler or somebody on the street corner basically begging for money, and he's like, people were putting $5 bills, $10 bills. A lot of it was loonies and toonies and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, he talked to him afterwards, and the guy said, I probably made about $100 in the last hour. And he said, if you go to a couple street corners, you work 3 or 4 hours, you're making $300-400 a day. I mean,
and this was in the middle of the when we were down in Tulsa, it was during the NCAA basketball stuff for those of you that care about that. So it's kind of a busy area, and we were in that area, but where we were, because the game was on, there wasn't that many people about. So I mean, $50 in an hour of me putting not like a no effort, but not harassing every person I saw. So I quickly learned that like carrying cash and at least a very urban setting is not really something that's needed per se. If you go more rural and technology isn't quite as up to the same standard, then it becomes a little bit more. I mean, you still need some, but I've certainly learned that there are ways to get it if you need it. And
I found I haven't been great at keeping cash on me, but I always keep cash in a vehicle.
I always
especially I keep I don't know, I think I keep about $100, but I mean that's enough that if I'm without my phone, without my wallet, and I need gas, $100 will pretty close to fill my tank, right? So it'll give me 600 or 700 kilometers range if I need it. But
or for paying for parking is, I find, the one thing that I'm always doing. You go somewhere and think, cash only. Well, wait, I've got a couple of bucks, and I usually keep it in the eyeglass holder thingy in the roof, out of sight. And most people forget that that's there. So if you ever try to break into my car, don't look there. I don't keep that.
Get $5 there,
But I find that a great spot to keep it, because it's
that's also not a bad way to get cash. Is just stand in a parking lot, wave people in, charge them $10 a car. That happens around event centers.
Absolutely, put one of those orange and yellow construction vests on and stand there doing that.
Make a killing.
Yeah, a really easy way to make $50 in half an hour as everybody comes up. So,
or you can stand in front of pretty much any bar, and people will think that you're a bouncer, and do the same. $10 cover tonight,
especially if you are a large person wearing a black shirt.
Yeah, not that I'm suggesting people do that, but
sometimes needs overcome desires. Right?
Exactly, which is also why I don't give money to anyone now when they ask. I know how easily it is that you can fool people.
Absolutely. Can I have a receipt for that? No? Okay, well, you're not getting my cash then. So I'll throw this out here. If what's missing from your perfect EDC kit?
I'll be straight up. I mean, I live in Canada, and the fact that I can't open or conceal carry a firearm is the one thing that I think is missing. I don't think the legality around it's going to change anytime soon or ever in this country. But I think that's the one thing that if I were given the opportunity to legally open or preferably conceal, I don't like to draw attention. But if I had that ability, that's definitely something that I would do. Again, I mean, I'm not one to seek out a fight. But if I was put in a corner, I would rather have it than not have it, right?
I don't throw the first punch, but I'll be damn sure if I'm going to throw the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you. That is definitely something I would prefer in Canada, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. And having done it in the U.S., I've certainly in certain areas where I've been have had some peace of mind knowing that I can provide my own protection. I'm not going to rely on people that are 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or longer away.
Yeah, and the thing is
Well, the old saying, right? When seconds count, the police are only minutes away.
Yeah. And my mentality around that is, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I mean, we can probably talk about this until the cows come home, but to Alan's point is, whether you live in an urban area or a suburban or rural area, the police response is probably quicker in downtown Toronto than it is in rural Nova Scotia, right? But the thing is if you have an active shooter, obviously this is probably something that's been thought out, and they probably have the means to inflict a lot of harm before the police do get on scene.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to have the option, and then and I think everyone should. And if you feel that that's not for you, then you just don't do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's the thing too is when you look at fight or flight, I think I can't tell you how I would react in that. I mean, I could tell you how I would like to react in that situation, but until you're put in that situation, you can't honestly say how you're going to react, especially if you haven't been immersed in combat or anything like that. But my first reaction would be to get out of there, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, if I don't have a choice, if I'm backed into a corner, I don't have an escape route. I would like to have the option. Unfortunately.
Well, yeah. I mean, the mantra we've always done when I've done any sort of training related to that kind of stuff is always run, hide, and then fight.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that are going to get you away and not get you hurt. And then the other one is always the last resort.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to try to be the hero and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you're faced with that situation, and we're talking about an active shooter, whether that be in a public place or a mall or something like that, you're probably going up against somebody who's got a lot more firepower than you. Chances are they're probably not armed with a handgun. They're probably armed with an AR-15 or something like that. And going up against that with a handgun, if you don't have to, don't, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one thing. I think that, I mean, everything else is pretty much fair game here in Canada, at least if you call it a tool and not a weapon.
Yeah, that's a key really part of that.
Yeah, you can't say, "Hey, officer, I've got a weapon on me. It's a knife." No, you say, "I've got a tool. I use it to open boxes and cut tape and all that kind of stuff," right? And I know there's other things like have.
Uh-oh. Maybe we lost him.
Things like a collapsible asp, pepper spray and all that kind of stuff. If you call it dog deterrent or bear spray or, the collapsible baton is kind of a gray area. But if you don't call it a defensive tool and you just call it a tool, then it's all about how you frame it, right? And what you do with it, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, that becomes a big thing. We kind of talked about that in the lockpicking episode too, right? Like it's only illegal if you use it illegally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, that brings up a really good thing I wanted to touch on briefly, but continue saying it. It just reminded me. Sorry.
Well, and all I was going to say was like lockpicks and baseball bats are kind of the same thing. It's only illegal if you use it illegally, and if you do, it's a really bad thing. But if you have a reason to have that and a reason to use it, and you do so in an appropriate manner, which is what we're advocating here, right? I don't carry a knife in my pocket to go stab somebody because I'm upset. I carry a knife in my pocket because I like to slice my apple at lunch, and I like to I cut boxes open with it. Right? That's what that tool.
And sometimes the looks you get, like sometimes I have to think a little bit more before I act. Like a couple weeks ago, I was at McDonald's with my daughter, and we're trying to get the yogurt tube open, and it's not happening. So I flip out the my SOG knife here, and I cut the top of the yogurt tube off, and I put it back in my pocket. And I look, and there's somebody staring at me like, I've got 3
Yeah,
heads.
like you're some sort of psycho because you
because I use
help your daughter eat her food. Yeah,
yeah, exactly right.
yeah.
But you have to put yourself in the day in which we live in the country in which we live in, and these things are going to offend some people. And again, I'm not one to draw attention to myself, which is why if I was given the option between open or conceal, definitely going to go for the conceal option because I spend some time working in Texas, and in Texas it's it's a lot more accepted there. But even people walking around open carrying, they draw a lot of attention to themselves.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I was in Shoppers Drug Mart the other day because I had to pick up a package from the little post office in there. And I got the package, and on my way out, I'm still walking through. I pull out my pocket knife, flick it open, and start opening the box. And everyone's just kind of looking at me weird. I'm like, oh, right.
For a second there, Gavin, I thought you were going to say I was in Shoppers Drug Mart and I was concealed carrying. I'm like, oh, all right.
No. That was only in Walmart.
He would never admit to that in recording. Yeah.
Yeah, that was only in Walmart last weekend, but I was in Utah where that's allowed. So.
Yeah. So no, that's a good point, right? And not I think part of the prepper mindset is not drawing attention to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I mean I advocate it in different ways. It's like I've seen people with and I digress a little bit here with their 72-hour bag or their get home bag, and it's a super tactical bag, and it's like, what, in my opinion, that's probably going to draw unwanted attention. Just use a book bag, right? I mean, it's probably not as sturdy. It's probably not as operator-ish, but you're probably not going to draw as much attention to yourself. You're going to be able to blend in a lot better, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I have the same theory about those Maxpedition packs. They look really cool and they're really functional, but they also draw a lot of attention. I see one of those, and I know there's somebody that's got a lot of gear in his pockets.
Yeah.
Whereas a pencil case that I get from the dollar store.
Yeah. The thing is,
it's just a pencil case.
They're walking around with a $300-$400 tactical backpack. You got to wonder what's in that backpack, right?
Exactly.
And the guy,
so as much as they look cool,
the guy could know what he's doing, or it could be a poser, right? Who knows, right? But either way, you're drawing attention to yourself.
It's still somebody to pay attention to.
Yeah, but one thing the lockpicking thing reminded me of is, so you guys are saying that you use those key smarts or the key bar and things like that. And those are great. And one of the reasons why they're really great is because they help hide your keys slightly. Because
absolutely.
You can now just take a photo of a key and have it printed at a kiosk. So from a personal security standpoint,
I've learned to do that for a living for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a thing on that, and with the new crazy, pocket-sized cameras that have like a 30-time optical zoom, guys I know that red team for a living have literally used that, garbage, like it's like a Minolta that, isn't that expensive, but with the optical zoom, they could be across the street and take a photo of something extremely close. So people have left their keys sitting on a table when they go get their coffee in the morning, and they have taken photos of those keys because that's the target of the building they need to get into for work, and made a copy of that key from a photo from very far away.
Wow.
So
that's a good point, because I mean, I was just looking at mine here, and for those that are just on the audio, but that's a really good point. I mean, it hides the bidding on the key, right? So
it sounds super paranoid and all that, but that's the kind of weird classes that I take, is learning how to do exactly what those guys do for a living.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, and they will exploit things like that. So also, if you have to wear one of those if you have to wear one of those badges for work when you go out for lunch, maybe don't wear that either. Put it in your pocket.
Nope.
Because they do the same thing with those.
Those can actually be cloned pretty readily,
pretty easily, right?
Any place that can copy car keys can clone those badges for you.
Yeah, but a lot of places, even if it doesn't have the RFID, it's just you wear a badge with a photo on it. They go and they do the same thing. They take photos of those things from far away, and then just laminate a plastic thing with their photo over place of yours, and you can walk around, because they look like they belong. As long as they don't need to open a super secret door, they're fine.
Well, I was going to say, it probably falls into the social engineering piece where, you have a car that's obviously, fake. Yeah. But if you walk up to security and you say, oh yeah, my card's not working anymore, and if you have something that looks like the real deal, chances are they can issue you a temporary pass.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely.
I mean, the best security measures in the world are foiled by social engineering, right? You just have to get one person.
Well, yeah, the more high tech the security, the more primitive or the more vulnerable it is to primitive attack. So
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, the human element takes a huge toll there. So.
It's funny because just a couple of minutes before we joined the podcast, I was watching a video on YouTube out of all places, and it was basically a guy that he was in the UK, and he's like, I wonder what types of places I can walk in with their different tools and different vests. And what he was doing was putting on like an orange vest and a construction helmet, and he literally walked into any place imaginable. He walked into concerts, he walked into stadiums, like through security. He just looks like he belongs there.
Walk with purpose, carry a clipboard, you can get anywhere.
Yeah, and there was one where he walked towards a stadium with like a ladder, and they just waved him on through because he looked like he belonged there, right? So
so when I do my volunteer first responder stuff, we have uniforms on. They don't say police on them. They have big giant patch on the back that says search and rescue.
Yeah,
and we could pretty much do whatever we want while we wear those uniforms. Not that we do, but like, if I wanted to walk out in the middle of the street and shut down an intersection wearing that, I can do that.
Yeah, it's people look at it as like an authority figure, right? So
yeah, even though I have zero authority whatsoever.
Yeah, agreed.
So one other thing that kind of just occurred to me in terms of what I do every day is my shoes. My default, just because of what I do for a living, is I tend to wear steel toe shoes that have decent cushioning. I can walk for hours in them. Throwing back to my my days in big box retail. So that's just one other thing to be aware of is the things you layer yourself with.
Good shoes are key to any day.
Yeah, it's just one of those things to pay attention to. Like, what's your environment going to be, and how I have some really excellent original SWAT winter boots that keep me super warm and dry in the winter, and I can walk for days in them. And I wear them when I go hunting, and I wear them when I go when I'm going to the hockey rink because they keep my feet warm. But
that's a really good point, Alan.
There you go, because they're gonna make my feet sweat. So, just another thing to kind of be aware of is match your clothing to your environment and your tasks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that will go a long way. And if you can't, right? There are lots of days that I wear dress shoes because some days I get to be fancy. But if I'm going to wear dress shoes, I got a good pair of running shoes and a good pair of steel toe boots in my car, so that if I do break down and have to walk somewhere, I'm not going to tear my feet up.
Yeah, I found. So sometimes, especially in the summertime, I'll wear things like sandals and flip flops and all that kind of stuff. But I do keep a pair of steel-toed hiking boots in my truck with a good pair of socks, so that if I'm somewhere with the truck and I know that I've got to abandon the truck and I've got to walk, I'm going to ditch the flip flops and put on the hiking boots, right? So although I probably don't have them on me on my feet at all times, I've got them within the vehicle. And again, where I go, chances are the vehicle's not that far away because living in a rural area, I can't walk anywhere, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like my car's always within about 30 steps.
Yeah.
Or it's parked outside, or it's at home, and I'm within probably 5 kilometers of being at home. So that's And so tailoring your gear to your environment, right? If I lived in downtown Toronto and I walked everywhere, then I would pack my life really differently, because I would contain everything to a backpack instead of the trunk of my car.
Yeah, a friend of mine has a great quote from one of his commanding officers when he was younger. Any idiot can be cold, wet, and lonely. So yeah. Doesn't take a whole lot of skill to be unprepared. Yeah,
it's a good point when you mentioned, Alan, about people that live in downtown Toronto and walk everywhere. I know when I go to work in Toronto, it's basically just myself and my backpack, and that's where I put a lot of my stuff is in the backpack, because where I go, that backpack goes. It's either with me at the hotel or it's with me at the restaurant or at work. So I've got an ability to carry a lot more gear in that backpack. And again, I've taken a minimalist approach in looking at how much how can I shed weight, because the difference between a 20-pound backpack and a 10-pound backpack is huge, right?
Absolutely.
But that's a really good opportunity if you're carrying a backpack with you around every day. The amount of gear you can carry in there, especially if you're smart about it, and you're smart about the gear you acquire, and you make sure that it's as light as possible. Because I think it was Alan or Gavin that mentioned that grams turns into ounces and ounces into pounds, right? And it's not that long before you got
Well, anyway, there's a phenomenon out there about your backpack. So when you're choosing your bag, base it on the gear you're going to carry, because we have this need to have a bag to fill it. So our ability to carry gear expands in direct correlation with the size of the bag that you have. So if you are, if you want to be a minimalist, get a smaller bag so that you can't overfill it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I mean, if you're walking around with a 45-liter day pack, you can fit a lot of stuff in there, but do you actually need all that stuff? Probably not.
Absolutely not.
And
right?
you will fill it, and that is from personal experience. You will fill that.
Yeah.
But that's also why I have way too many backpacks.
Yeah,
well, I have probably 20 different bags that I can carry.
I'm bad for that too. I'll see a new backpack that is just a little bit different than the last one and a little bit smaller. Or it's got a special compartment. I'm like, I gotta have that, right? And then I kind of complain about why my wife has like so many shoes, and here I am with like 10, 15 backpacks, right?
Yeah. No, I 100% have more shoes than my fiance. She's very practical that way. I have so many steel toe shoes and boots. It's almost not funny, but it kind of is.
The search for the perfect backpack is never
exactly over. Right. And like 20 different backpacks, like 10, 15 or 20 different duffels, and I could pack my entire house, my entire life into the bags that are within the house, and probably still have bags to spare.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I found too, so I used to travel to Asia for work a lot, and what I considered my EDC was, I had basically like my backpack, and I had a carry-on bag because I was only gone for a few days at a time, and I found that I really had to tailor what I was carrying on me, not to where I live, but essentially to where I was traveling. So I think you really have to take into account where you're going to. So you have to think about things like the local currency, adapters for your power devices, a money belt. And a money belt, because I would carry most everything in my money. And I've got a Nexus and a passport, so I could fly with either. So I would keep, my Nexus card in the belt, keep the passport out. If somebody were to rob me and take the passport, that's fine. I'll report it to the consulate. I still have a Nexus card that I can get back into Canada without any issues, right? So just kind of thinking, having the mindset of, I don't need to carry a money belt where I am here on the East Coast in Canada, but traveling, if somebody were to take my backpack, if somebody were to rob me, I'm in a foreign country, at least if they take what's in the bag, they hopefully think that, the $500 that they took is everything, when really I probably have another $300 or $400 on me, enough to get me to a bank or back to my employer to say, hey, I just got robbed. Yeah, I need some help here, right? So
one of those tips that I learned through someone else's experience is to carry a fake wallet if you're going to do that. Use your decoy wallet, and if somebody demands your wallet, throw it behind them. They're going to go after the wallet. Gives you an opportunity to create space and get out. And if you're your decoy wallet, you're not going to lose a whole lot. Put a few dollars in it, and they get something, and you don't lose anything.
Yeah, put some old credit cards that have long since been canceled. You can in there. You can
or
you just used gift cards that if all the money has been taken off of them, they look enough like credit cards. Especially if they're like old Visa gift cards. Yeah,
that's a good point. I never thought about a decoy wallet. When you were saying a second wallet, I was just thinking a lot of times when I travel, I carry a second cell phone, which is just basically like just.
So when you give to customs, when you go through, you can unlock and
there's nothing on here.
Yeah.
But no, I just carry, I think it's like an iPhone 6. I picked it up for work a long time ago because I had to test stuff on Android and on iPhone. And right now it's just, an iPhone that has some accounts attached to it. But if something happens to my main phone, either it's lost, stolen, smashed, anything like that, I've got a backup. And, I've got one of these travel sims in it that, you pay per use, right? So if I need it, like right now, it's not costing me anything, but if I need to activate it, it's a little bit more expensive than your home sim, but at least within a few minutes, you're back up and running with a second phone, right? So I think I wouldn't advocate having two phones on you every day unless you need it, but having a second cell phone when you travel, because that could be your lifeline, right?
One other thing I've learned while traveling and doing some other weird stuff like that is those writable RFID tags can come in very handy for taking information with you in a less than obvious manner. As long as you've got a phone that can, read it. So most of the Samsung phones have the NFC capability.
Yep.
So you can put these things and you can stick them on your stuff, or somewhere that's sort of fairly discreet, because it's literally just a sticker. And if you need to put your bank account and stuff like that, you can do that on it. And then if you're ever in a situation where that stuff goes missing, or you need this or that, or prepaid calling cards apparently is the big ones in prisons. They do that with RFID stickers with calling card stuff for prisons, and what's the Bitcoin and stuff like that. You can do all that stuff to trade currency and information in a less than obvious manner. And yeah, if you just put emergency stuff that you don't necessarily remember because you don't use it all the time, you can stick it on that, and you stick it on something and it's inconspicuous, and then when you need it, you just touch your phone to it and it pulls up the information that you need.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah,
that's a really good idea.
Another thing I thought about is talk about the Key Smart. I see that obviously they're always evolving and coming out with some new products. And one of them is you can get a Key Smart that has a tile tracker in it. And that's obviously good if you are somebody who's prone to losing your keys, because then you have the tile built into it where you can actually locate your keys using your phone. But one of the ones I'd be more interested in is having the one that has a built-in USB key. And the thing is I've for a long time I've always had a USB key at my disposal that has an encrypted file on it. So if somebody finds the USB key, it's useless because the file is encrypted. But it would have things like some personal documents, like copies of my driver's license. Banks. When you mentioned the banking info, that's what brought it up, because
I did do the same on my cell phone. I've got all of my passport, driver's license, health card.
Exactly. So even if you don't have the physical card, I mean, if you've got the number, a lot of times it can pull up the account. But I mean, I used to have that on a USB key. So if something happened to my phone, I've got the phone number to contact American Express to say, hey, my wallet's been stolen. I need a card shipped to me. Or I could pull up my health card information. So if I'm in Ontario and I need to go to the hospital, here's a health card. I don't have it on me, but
I have my like the OHIP card for my kids on my phone, so that
so there you go.
If I don't have their card with me, then I can still I can still.
I can't tell you. I mean, I use that thing constantly, and the one that I use the most is my passport, because I travel a lot, and I'll be like, oh, it's time to check into my flight. Oh, I got it. Shit, I don't have my Oh, wait, I do have my passport information. I can enter it. And it's like, oh, great, I can check into my flight now rather than waiting and then getting stuck in the middle seat, because nobody likes that. Ugh.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But then, I mean, if you're a firearms owner too, getting stuck without your paperwork, well, it's always on my phone. So
I usually carry a copy of my RPAL. The firearms certificate for my restricteds are on there. My club membership's on there. You have all of that, so that if you forget your clipboard and your paperwork at home, at least you have something, right? And one thing I was so this is one thing I carry on me any time I leave the house, and it's basically just a little pod, but it's got wireless buds in it. And the good thing about this is, obviously, one, you can listen to music. Two, you can listen to phone calls privately. With these ones, I can either have one or both of them in, so I can have just one to act as a phone or to listen into stuff. The great thing with these too is that you can use them to eavesdrop on people. So what you could do is you could put these in your ear, put your phone in one room, walk away, and what happens is that on the disability mode, anything the phone picks up as
acts as a microphone.
Acts as a microphone, plays it back to your Bluetooth headphones that have a 75-foot range on them, right? So these have a tremendous amount of use, and the case itself acts as a battery bank for the earbuds. So when I put the earbuds in the case, it'll actually charge it, and then I can either charge the case with a wire or wirelessly. Anyways, I've been a huge fan of these, and I mean, I used to carry actual headphones on me, and now I carry these. As soon as I open the case, they pair with my phone. I can make phone calls, I can listen to music, I can do it all day. The battery's awesome on it. Same goes with AirPods. If you've got an AirPhone or an iPhone, get AirPods. Obviously, if you've got a Samsung, I'd recommend going something like the Samsung Buds, right? So I've tried cheap alternatives, the $15-20 Bluetooth headphones.
They're not as good.
I just get really frustrated really quickly. So to me, it's some things are worth spending the money on, and I think if you're looking at AirPods or Buds, I think that's the way to go. At least that's been my experience, right?
Well, I think that kind of brings me to my last point is quality over quantity, right? It's cool to have a giant collection of folding knives, and this is my Monday knife, and this is my Wednesday knife, and this is my going out to the bar on Saturday night knife, but and I'm sure we all have our, different needs for different causes and different times, but invest in quality. Is probably the big takeaway from that. You can buy a lot of $20 multi-tools for the price of a good Leatherman, but I've gone through a lot of multi-tools, and I've got a Leatherman that's now pushing 20 years old and still in excellent shape.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And yeah, just one other weird little tangent with those like tile and stuff like that. I actually know guys that use that to track people over a short distance and keep an eye on them.
Oh, really?
Sure.
Yeah, because when you look at it, as long as you're within like that 75 feet or whatever your Bluetooth thing is, it shows you on a map where it is. So when they've ever had to follow somebody for work and stuff like that, they'll just slip one of those in their bag, and then
I was gonna say, right? I mean, you can slip it in their pockets or anything, right?
Yeah, they can follow them without following them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, if you happen to find one in your stuff that's not yours, you should probably get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like when you look under your car and you see a GPS device, you're like, oh, I didn't put that there. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
But also a great way to keep a track of your backpack and stuff like that, and not just your house keys.
Yeah, no, that's especially if somebody were to walk away with it. I mean, if you just notice that it happened, you've got a margin of to try to locate the backpack, right?
Well, and some of the better ones have like geofencing alarms. So once it breaks that 75 feet or whatever it is and loses connection, your phone will start blaring at you and tell you that your bag is moving.
Yeah.
Well,
I used to use that a lot if you're in a. Yeah, I used to use that a lot when I used to work for BlackBerry. I used to have a smart card reader on me, and it was paired to my phone. And I would always keep the smart card reader on me, and if I walked away from my phone within like 10 feet, it would automatically lock my phone. So if I forgot to lock the phone, it would lock it. So yeah, that's a good point about having a tile tracker just within the backpack itself.
And if you happen to be in an area that has limited paths of egress, you can stand near the exit, and you're going to catch that bag as it comes through the door as soon as they approach you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely, yeah. And you don't lose all your cool EDC kit that you spent all this money on.
A lot of those tile trackers too, you can make it have an audible alarm. I know I have one for my keys, and on the phone I can activate the audible alarm on the tile key itself. So if you were to approach somebody and say, "Hey, I think you've got my stuff," and they say no, and you set off the alarm, you're like, "Well, I did that, not you."
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I use my tile at least 2 or 3 times a week to find my damn keys.
Or find my phone.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I know I put them down here somewhere.
It's good too, because if you hit the button on the tile, it'll find your phone. So if you lose one or the other,
it works both ways.
Yeah,
it's great. Especially the new ones with the replaceable batteries, so you don't have to chuck the whole thing out.
Yeah, that's why I first had the tile when it came out originally, and I got rid of it because of the fact that I bought it. Probably had been sitting on the shelf for a while, and the battery died pretty quickly. I'm like, you know what, this is the garbage. No, I think it's called the Tile Sport. It's got the replaceable 2032, I think, which is awesome. So
there was a way to replace them if you pried them open, but that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I think it's time for the podcast.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So your challenge this week, great listeners, is to pay attention to what you keep with you all the time. Pay attention to what you actually use, and find the gaps of things that you should have with you, and start carrying those. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you discover you never use. Let us know what you discovered that you didn't even know you needed. You can get back to us with that. Feedback at prepperpodcast.ca. I've got some upcoming events. The 2019 annual Preppers Meet is coming up shortly in Desborough, Ontario. That's actually only in a couple of weeks, July 11th to 14th. You can get tickets at annualpreppersmeet.com. Once again, that is a cash-only event. Make sure you take cash with you for all of the reasons that we discussed earlier tonight. That will be part of your EDC for that weekend. Lots of cool stuff there. Eric is potentially still going to be there to do some teaching. So stay tuned for more details on that, hopefully in the next episode. And then last call for the Podcaster Charity Shoot in Drumheller, Alberta. That's coming up next weekend on July 6th. Everyone is welcome. There's a maple seed course, and I believe it is Gavin who's teaching Stop the Bleed. Is that right, Gavin?
I will be teaching that. Yeah, I'll be there. Ian will be there. You can meet us both in person. He will be taking my class. Yeah. If you can
that's a cool thing. I did Stop the Bleed back in April, and I think that's one of those things that should be taught in school. I think it's everybody
absolutely
should know.
I agree.
Like first aid and CPR, 100%. Stop the Bleed is 100% life-saving stuff. It's super easy to do. So check. I know our local hospital here, London Health Sciences Center, actually puts it on for free once a month or so. Or they will, if you've got a group of 8, they will actually come out to you, and it's all no charge. So check into that with your local trauma centers, your local people like Gavin at Ragnarok Tactical. There are lots of places where you can get that, and I'm going to keep hammering on it. That's a great idea.
Yeah, knowledge is the most important EDC.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. So do we have any shout outs? I see Ian has a shout out here to Vortex Optics Canada, and he will explain that later. So Vortex Optics, there you go. And to new listener Mike, and a new prepper Raphael, who he met on a face-to-face, which is pretty cool. I have a million shout outs to people that have helped me refine my gear over the years, but I'm going to give a shout out to Buck USA. They make a knife that has done a lot of good for me over the years, and it's good quality and was definitely not overpriced. So Buck USA, go team.
Nice.
How about you guys? Anybody you want to shout out there?
Yeah, I guess if you happen to be traveling in the U.S. or you live in the Utah area and you want to get really, really, really good firearms training and learn how to shoot out to a mile, talk to Utah Tactical Coaching. Those guys they know what they're doing. They've been there, they've done that, and like I said, they will get you shooting out to 1 mile, which is pretty freaking far.
That is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's what, 5,300 feet, some odd?
1,760 yards, I believe, is the.
That's insane. I can't even fathom putting a sight on something that far away.
It was. I felt really good when I hit that thing. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. And then when I hit it again the second time to prove that it wasn't a fluke, it felt even better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So usually now is when we talk about emails, iTunes reviews, etc. Eric and Ian are the ones who are in charge of those things, and since neither of them are here, we're still going to mention that one little 4-star and a whole bunch of 5 stars because y'all are awesome.
Yeah.
So really appreciate the feedback. The more information, the more feedback you give us about what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, the more we can refine our process, refine our topics. So if you've got something you want to hear about, something you want to discuss, shoot us an email, feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, or the website www.prepperpodcast.ca. Let us know what you like, what you don't, and if you have something that you're really passionate about, something you're expert on, let us know, and we'll get you on here. This is a good time, and even without Ian and Eric, it still happens. So I think with that, it's time to bring episode 27 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Take a few minutes, submit a review. Helps other people find us. You can find us at prepperpodcast.ca. We also record these shows live on YouTube chats. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. It'll give you an alert when we're going live. And you can find me directly on Instagram at PPSWO. Hughes, how do we find you?
You can find me at hfxprepper@gmail.com, or I've got my own YouTube channel. Just search for HFX Prepper on YouTube.
You can find me on Instagram as well at urbex_GTA, or in person in Calgary or Drumheller next weekend.
Next weekend, go there. Yeah. That's such a cool place. If I wasn't on the exact opposite side of the country, that's where I would be.
You'll be there in spirit.
I will definitely be there in spirit, but I will be in New Brunswick in spirits. You can find Ian directly at by email at theislandretreat@gmail.com. You can find Eric. Best place to find him is rapidsurvival.com. You can find him there on the live chat. Find some cool gear. He has some really cool toys on that website. So and a lot of things that you might want to carry with you every day. So check out that rapidsurvival.com. And you can find him you can get him at feedback at prepperpodcast.ca. One quick note. We do have Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirts for sale. I think Eric was wearing one last week. I was going to put mine on tonight, but came late to the party. So we have a couple of colors. We got some in green. We got some in black. They are $19.95 plus shipping and the mandatory government bribes. So you can find those through Eric, feedback at prepperpodcast.ca. And that is about all the new stuff we have. Anything else?
No, not for me.
No, I think that's it.
Final words from you guys? All right. Well, with that, thanks for joining us. Tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel for a surprise of some kind because I won't be here and Eric and Ian have not decided what the topic is. So
Awesome.
It'll be a grab bag. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe, and keep learning.
Thanks, everyone.